Hi friends, welcome to another episode of Book Chat. Today I'm going to be introducing you to a few books that have very strong female sleuth characters, and they are from the late 19th century to the early 20th century. So these women had a lot to overcome, and yet they do it with an amazing style and grace, all the while solving mysteries, usually a murder, but sometimes there's other mysteries involved as well. The first one I'm starting with is called Murder on Astor Place. The author is Victoria Thompson, and it is the first in a new series called the Gaslight Mystery Series. Actually, the series is not a new series, it's new to me. In this book, the main character, Sarah Brandt, grew up very wealthy. In fact, they talk often about the wealthy of New York in the early 20th century. However, she chose to marry a man that she loved, and he was a doctor. He then passed away, and she inherited his practice and then became a midwife. So she's in a very unique role. She's got 1 foot in the regular people of New York and 1 foot in the wealthy people of New York. And she experiences a murder that requires her to use both worlds that she's in. And she does have a sidekick. It's a very crabby police detective who they end up working together and reaching a mutual consent. And I don't think that this is going to turn into a romance series, which is a very nice thing to have. You're not speculating over whether it's going to be romance or not, but the mystery is very, very interesting to solve. The second book I'm suggesting is Deanna Raybourn's A Curious Beginning. And this is the first in the Veronica Speedwell mystery. And the main character's name, Veronica Speedwell. She is a very, very strong-willed woman, and she is an orphan and was left money by an aunt who allowed her to travel all over the world. And she does so because she is a lepidopterist, which is a butterfly collector. And so as she travels all over the world collecting these, she ends up coming back to England. And she as well has a male partner, Lord Stroker. And there's a mystery involved. There's some skeletons in the closet. And it turns out that she is actually labeled as the most dangerous woman in England. So you really have to figure out what's going on. The third one is one that Marguerite recommended to me. I was familiar with the author, Rhys Bowen, because she does do other series. However, this one here, Murphy's Law, takes place in Ireland and in Ireland and the United States, because Molly Murphy ends up traveling to the United States and immigrating here, and there's a lot of misfortune that falls upon her in the way. It is a humorous book, however, because it just seems to keep falling into her lap, and she doesn't plan any of it, but she ends up in it deeper and deeper, and there's a murder as well, and another sidekick, a Irish police detective in New York City. And this really tells a great story of the immigrants coming over and how they lived and how they worked. The backstories in these are as entertaining as the murder mysteries themselves, seeing how everybody lived and worked. And I'm really looking forward to getting into this series more. It's the first in the Molly Murphy mysteries. As you can see, they like to name the series after the main character a lot. So it works well. And then finally, A Study in Scarlet Women by Sherry Thomas. This one, I think, was the first one out of all 4 I read, and I really enjoyed it because it was a spoof off of Sherlock Holmes. In fact, the series is called the Lady Sherlock Mysteries. Her name is Charlotte Holmes. And she ends up in disgrace. This is a book set in the late 1800s. She ends up in disgrace, ends up living separately with a kind woman named Mrs. Watson, whose husband, Mr. Watson, had passed away in the war. So again, you see some tie-in to the Sherlock Holmes mysteries. And in this one, even though she was disgraced, there was a murder that occurred, and her father and her sister are suspects. And so she steps in to help her family and discovers that maybe this solving mysteries thing is really what she's meant to do. And so I would love to recommend any of these books. As I said, as historical fictions, they all seem fairly accurate. And so it's really interesting to read not just the murders, but also everything that goes on around them, their lifestyles. And I would welcome you to come on in. As one last note, we are running a candy brackets for Halloween, so please stop in and vote. You can choose your favorites. We have a list on our desk. For example, the first bracket is Snickers or Sweet Tarts. Who's going to win that one? I'm pretty sure I can guess on that one. However, it's going to be really interesting to see what everybody's favorite candies are. So please stop in and fill that out. Or online. We'll have a link to that on our webpage and on our Facebook page. So please participate, and we look forward to seeing you next week.